If your husband has stopped being the man he used to be in the bedroom, if his mornings are quiet, his confidence slipping, and he's tired of pretending it doesn't bother him, or perhaps you're a man watching this yourself, quietly searching for answers, then listen closely, because what I'm about to share may surprise you, even shock you. You see, after treating thousands of men over the age of 60, I've discovered that the single most overlooked cause of weak erections is not low testosterone. It's poor blood flow. And the fix? It's not a blue pill. It's not an expensive device. It's not even a supplement. In fact, it's a simple vegetable that can be eaten every morning. And within days, circulation, energy, and vitality can begin to return. My name is Dr. Syra Malik. I'm a women's and men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience helping older men reclaim their strength, confidence, and quality of life. And in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a powerful, natural solution, backed by science, trusted by real patients, and easily available in every grocery store. Because when a man starts his morning with this one food, everything changes. Blood pressure stabilizes, nitric oxide rises, oxygen flows exactly where it's needed, including down there. Most men don't know this. That's why I urge you, stay with me until the very end. I'll explain exactly how it works, how to use it, and why so many men see results in as little as 7 days. Before we dive into the full method, take a second to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss another tip that helps you or the men in your life reclaim strength, energy, and confidence. And if this message speaks to you, just type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 so I know how to serve you better. Let's begin. 1. The forgotten reason erections get weaker after 60. I want to begin with something most men never hear. Not from their doctor, not from their friends, and certainly not from television commercials. And yet, it's one of the most important truths I've witnessed in over 3 decades as a health physician. Erections don't just disappear after 60 because a man is getting older. That's the myth. The real reason? His blood simply isn't moving the way it used to. I've had countless men sit across from me in my clinic. Good men, strong men. Men who've worked hard their whole lives and raised families, built businesses, and served their communities. And they look me in the eye and say, Dr. Malik, I think I'm just past my prime. And I look right back at them and say, no, you're not. Your prime is still in you. It's your circulation that's been neglected, not your manhood. You see, a man's ability to get and maintain an erection depends on one key system in the body, blood flow. More specifically, the flow of oxygen-rich blood into the tiny vessels of the penis. And that flow is powered by a gas the body produces naturally, something called nitric oxide. When men were younger, their nitric oxide levels were high. That's why everything worked so quickly, so easily, often without much conscious thought at all. But after 60, nitric oxide drops, sometimes by more than 70%. The arteries begin to stiffen. The inner lining of the blood vessels, called the endothelium, becomes less responsive. As a result, the surge of blood that once filled the tissue like a balloon is now more of a trickle. He's not broken. His body is simply asking for help. And here's the part that resonates most deeply with the men I treat. This change doesn't just affect performance. It affects confidence, a man's sense of self, and even his emotional connection with his partner. The worst part? Most men are never told this is fixable. But it is, and in a far more natural, sustainable way than most people think. Because believe it or not, there is a simple vegetable, one that can be eaten every morning, that helps the body rebuild nitric oxide and restart the engine that drives erections, energy, and circulation. And in the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what that vegetable is and why it's often more effective than the pills being advertised everywhere. 2. The one vegetable that rebuilds circulation in older men when I first started exploring the power of this vegetable. I'll admit I approached it with clinical caution. Not because I didn't believe in food as medicine, I absolutely do, but because it seemed almost too simple. Could something so ordinary, so inexpensive, really make a measurable difference in how blood flows to the most vital parts of a man's body? But then I started seeing the results in my own patients. And I wasn't the only physician noticing this. Men in their late 60s, 70s, even early 80s were returning to my clinic after just a few weeks and saying things I hadn't heard in years. Doctor, Malik, I woke up firm again. Or, for the first time in months, I actually felt ready the way I used to. And all they had changed was adding this one food to their morning routine. The vegetable I'm talking about is beetroot. Yes, beets, the deep red root that so often gets pushed aside on dinner plates or forgotten at the bottom of a salad bar. But hidden inside that humble vegetable is a compound the aging male body desperately needs: dietary nitrate. When a man eats beets, his body converts those nitrates into nitric oxide, the very same gas that tells the arteries to relax, open up, and allow blood to flow freely. What's remarkable is how targeted the effect can be. Increased blood flow doesn't just support the heart or the brain, it also improves circulation to the pelvic region, including the sponge-like tissue that fills and expands during arousal. For older men, this is everything. We're not just improving the ability to get an erection, we're feeding the entire system that supports vitality, energy, and confidence. And I want to share something with you, something that stays with me. Years ago, I worked with a gentleman named Charles. He was 71, a retired engineer, and he hadn't experienced a full erection in over a year. We made one simple change. I had him start each morning with a small glass of fresh beet juice, just 6 ounces. That was it. No prescription, no procedure. By week 2, he called my office. His voice was emotional. He said, "Dr. Malik, I feel like myself again." That's when I knew this wasn't just theory. This was real, measurable, human change. Now, what actually happens inside the body when a man eats beets? How does that nitrate become nitric oxide and restore blood flow where it's needed most? Let's break it down, because once you understand this, the timing and preparation will make complete sense. 3. What happens in the body when you eat beets? How can something as simple as a beet actually help restore the blood flow a man had when he was younger? It's a question I hear often. But once you understand what's happening inside the body, it all starts to make beautiful biological sense. Here's what happens when a man eats beets. He's not just getting fiber or antioxidants. He's giving his body a direct source of dietary nitrates, and those nitrates are the raw material the body uses to produce nitric oxide. It's a gas, invisible and silent, but it plays one of the most powerful roles in the vascular system. Nitric oxide tells the blood vessels to relax. It tells the arteries, open up, let the blood flow. That's the signal so many men's bodies have been missing for years. The journey begins in the mouth. As the beet is chewed, bacteria on the tongue begin converting nitrates into nitrites. Then, as it's swallowed, the stomach and bloodstream continue that conversion, finally producing nitric oxide. Within minutes, there may be a sense of lightness, of better oxygenation. And over time, with consistency, stronger blood flow, not just to the heart and brain, but to the lower body, where many men quietly begin to feel the years catching up with them. I've had men tell me, "Dr. Malik, I thought I was done. I thought the best part of life was behind me." But after 2 weeks of morning beet juice, they call back telling me they feel sharper, more energetic, and more responsive in intimate moments. And it's not just about the physical, it's about identity. It's about waking up in the morning and knowing your body still listens to you. Here's something else I want to highlight, because I think it's often underappreciated. Beets don't just help with blood flow, they also protect the blood vessels from damage, reduce internal inflammation, and can help lower blood pressure over time. That means they're not simply fixing one issue, they're strengthening the entire cardiovascular foundation. But for all of this to work, you need to know how to use beets correctly. The timing, the method, even what's eaten alongside them, all of this matters. So let me walk you through exactly how to make beets part of the morning and how to get the absolute most from every bite. 4. Real results from real men over 60 theirs, something that never grows old in this work. And that's hearing the quiet hope return in a patient's voice when he says, "Doctor, Malik, it's working. Let me tell you about Mr. Anderson. He was 67 when he first came to see me. A retired teacher, soft-spoken, proud, but clearly carrying something unspoken. He told me he hadn't had a full natural erection in over 8 months. No morning response, no arousal that felt complete. It was beginning to affect his marriage, but more than that, it was changing how he saw himself. He said, "I feel like my body's betraying me, and I don't know how to fight back." We had a long conversation about blood flow, nitric oxide, and the role of diet. And I suggested something simple. I asked him to start his mornings with half a cup of fresh beet juice. That was it. No prescriptions. No pressure. Just a quiet, consistent commitment to himself. About 2 weeks later, he called my office. His voice was lighter, almost surprised with himself. He said, "I woke up this morning, and there it was. Not weak, not partial, and I didn't need anything extra to make it happen. I could hear the pride returning, the dignity. It wasn't about performance, it was about wholeness. He felt like himself again." Mr. Anderson's story is not rare. I've seen it play out time and time again in retired plumbers, accountants, veterans, teachers, men who believed their best years were behind them, only to discover that with a little support and consistency, their bodies still had more to give. What I want every man watching this to hear is this: you are not beyond help. Your body has not given up on you. It's waiting for the right signal, the right support. And when that comes through something as simple as a daily glass of beet juice, it reminds us just how intelligent and resilient the male body truly is. But as I said before, it's not just about the beet itself. It's about how and when you use it. So now, let's walk through exactly how to prepare and take it each morning to unlock its full potential. 5. When and how to eat beets for maximum circulation in my years of clinical practice, I've learned that timing and consistency can make all the difference between a habit that transforms a man's health and one that barely moves the needle. You can have the right food, the right nutrients, the right intention, but if they're used the wrong way or at the wrong time, the results your body is capable of won't materialize. And that's especially true with beets. Now, I know many men feel overwhelmed when a new health routine is introduced. They assume they need to overhaul everything overnight or prepare complicated meals. But the way to get the most out of beets is genuinely simple, and once a man feels what it does for his body, he'll want to keep going. Morning is the golden window. That's when testosterone is naturally at its highest, blood vessels are most responsive, and the body is primed to absorb nutrients. Eating beets on an empty stomach or drinking beet juice first thing allows the body to convert those precious nitrates into nitric oxide far more efficiently. I've had men try consuming them later in the day or after a heavy breakfast, and the difference in response is significant. Here's what I recommend. Start with half a cup of roasted beet slices or blend a small beet into a morning smoothie. For those who prefer convenience, a scoop of high-quality beetroot powder stirred into warm water can work just as well. You don't need a large quantity. What matters is that it's taken daily, before the first full meal. One more detail I always share with my patients, and this one surprises people. Avoid brushing your teeth immediately before or after consuming beets. The friendly bacteria in the mouth help begin the process of converting nitrates into nitric oxide. If a strong mouthwash is used or teeth are brushed too soon beforehand, it can interfere with the very reaction the body needs to boost blood flow. It's the small details like this that turn a good habit into a great one. But as powerful as beets are, they're not magic working in isolation. They need the right environment. And unfortunately, many men unknowingly undermine their own results each morning by combining beets with the wrong foods. In the next section, I'll show you exactly what to avoid, including the breakfast mistakes that may be quietly holding things back. 6. What not to eat in the morning if you want better erections as a physician. I spend a lot of time helping people understand not just what to add to their lives, but what to remove. And nowhere is this more important than in the morning hours when the body is most sensitive to what it receives. I've had patients tell me, Dr. Malik, I'm drinking the beet juice every morning like you suggested, but I'm not seeing much change. And when we looked a little deeper together, we'd find that their breakfast habits were quietly working against everything we were trying to achieve. Foods they thought were harmless or even healthy were actually narrowing their arteries, inflaming their blood vessels, and blunting the very nitric oxide boost the beet juice was meant to provide. One of the biggest culprits? Processed breakfast meats, bacon, sausage, deli ham. These are loaded with sodium and preservatives that constrict blood vessels and reduce circulation to the pelvic region. Then there are refined carbohydrates, white toast, muffins, pastries, which spike insulin and destabilize hormones, including testosterone. And too much caffeine on an empty stomach? That can elevate cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, which tightens blood vessels and makes arousal physiologically more difficult. Now, I'm not suggesting these foods can never be enjoyed again. But if a man is genuinely trying to restore his vitality and give his body a real chance, then the first hour of the day needs to support healing, not obstruct it. Instead of processed meats, reach for a boiled egg or a small handful of nuts. Instead of sugary toast or cereal, try sliced avocado on whole grain bread. These foods pair beautifully with beets. They offer healthy fats, essential vitamins, and minerals that nourish the blood vessels and support hormonal balance. When that shift happens, removing what clogs the system, replacing it with foods that nourish and protect, the body responds. The blood flows, the warmth returns. And for many men, that first natural erection after weeks or months of absence feels like life breathing back into something they thought was gone. But timing isn't just about food. It's about biology. There's a reason I recommend all of this in the morning rather than later in the day. Because something powerful happens in the male body each morning that makes this the perfect window to begin rebuilding. And in the next section, I'll show you exactly why. 7. Why morning matters more than you think. Over the years, I've noticed something remarkable about men who commit to morning health habits, especially those over 60. It's not just that their bodies respond better, though that's certainly true. It's that the morning itself becomes a kind of quiet turning point, a reclaiming, a moment where instead of letting the day dictate how they feel, they choose to set the tone with intention, care, and purpose. Biologically, morning is a golden window for male health. Testosterone levels are at their daily peak, which means the body is more naturally responsive, both mentally and physically. Blood pressure tends to be slightly elevated in the early hours, which primes the circulatory system for action when it receives the right nutritional support. When nitrate-rich foods like beets are consumed in the morning on an empty stomach, the body is far more efficient at converting them into nitric oxide, the gas that tells blood vessels to relax and expand, opening the pathway for oxygen, nutrients, and blood to reach every corner of the body, including the places that matter most to a man's intimacy and self-confidence. But beyond the biology, there's something even deeper I've observed in my patients. When a man begins his morning with intention, choosing to nourish himself rather than skipping breakfast or grabbing something processed, he begins to reclaim a sense of agency over his own health. It becomes a psychological shift as much as a physical one. And for men who have felt powerless in their bodies for too long, that shift can be genuinely life-changing. I remember one patient, a 72-year-old former Marine, who told me, Dr. Malik, I don't want a shortcut. I want a mission. I want a reason to wake up and fight for my body again. We started small, a glass of beet juice, a 10-minute walk, a better breakfast. Within a few weeks, he wasn't just experiencing better circulation. He was sleeping more deeply, laughing more freely, and showing up differently in his marriage. That's what a morning ritual can do. It doesn't just heal the body, it anchors the man. 8. What to expect? The timeline for results. One of the most common questions I receive when recommending a natural approach like beet juice is this. Dr. Malik, how long until I actually feel something? It's a completely fair question. When a man has gone months or even years feeling like his body is letting him down, it's understandably hard to trust that something this simple could spark real change. And yet, I've watched it happen time and time again. In the first few days, most men don't notice dramatic changes in bedroom performance, but they do notice something subtle. A little more color in the face, slightly better mental focus, an easier time getting out of bed in the morning. That's not random. That's the beginning of the circulatory system waking back up. By day 4 or 5, that nitric oxide boost starts to build. Blood vessels begin to open more freely, hands and feet may feel warmer. Some men describe feeling lighter, like their body isn't working quite so hard just to get through the day. Then comes day 7. This is where things often become meaningful. Some of my patients have reported waking up with their first spontaneous morning erection in months. No medication, no external stimulation, just the natural result of blood finally flowing where it needs to go. And it's not only the physical response that shifts, it's the emotional lift that follows. A quiet, powerful sense of, I'm back. By the 2-week mark, many men begin to see measurable improvements, stronger responses to touch, more consistent energy throughout the day, and in some cases, noticeably lower blood pressure. And when a man stays consistent for a full 30 days, it stops feeling like an experiment. It becomes a foundation. I always remind my patients, the key is not perfection. It's consistency. We're not forcing the body into something unnatural. We're simply giving it what it needs to do what it was always designed to do. And when you support the body that way, day by day, morning by morning, it responds. And here's something important I want to add. This isn't only about erections or energy. Beets are doing something deeper beneath the surface. They're supporting long-term vascular health, the very system that keeps the brain sharp, the heart strong, and a man's sense of vitality alive well into his later decades. 9. The morning ritual that reclaims masculinity. There's something sacred about the quiet of early morning, before the noise, the distractions, the full weight of the day settles in. For many of the men I care for, those early hours become more than just a time to eat or take a supplement. They become a moment to reconnect, to remember who they are, to take back something they quietly believed was lost. As a woman who has spent her career serving male health, I want to say something directly and with great care. Masculinity is not loud. The men I admire most are not the ones who perform strength. They're the ones who show up quietly, consistently, and with dignity. The ones who wake up each morning and make one small choice that says, I still matter. I'm still here. When a man builds a morning ritual around something as simple as drinking beet juice, it becomes more than a health habit. It becomes a declaration. It says, I'm not done. And that message, spoken not in words, but in action, repeated every single morning, begins to reshape a man's relationship with his own body. I remember one patient in particular, a 74-year-old widower who had spent the last few years in what he described as a kind of quiet retreat from life. He didn't go out much. He didn't feel much like himself. But he committed to the morning habit every day. Beet juice at sunrise, followed by a short walk and a few minutes of stillness. After 3 weeks, he told me, Dr. Malik, I feel like I've woken up, not just physically, something else, something I can't quite name. I understood exactly what he meant. When a man starts his day with intention, with care, with purpose, his body begins to trust him again. And in that trust, healing begins. 10. A final word from Dr. Syra Malik, if you're still here with me, I want to take a moment to speak to you, not only as a physician, but as someone who has sat across from thousands of men and listened to what so often goes unspoken. Men who've carried quiet shame, men who've felt silently disconnected from their own bodies, men who've laughed it off or toughed it out or simply told themselves, this is just aging. This is just how it goes now. And I'm here to tell you gently but clearly, it does not have to be that way. Your body is still listening, still responding, still capable of change, even if the world has stopped expecting it of you. And sometimes all it takes is one small, steady act of care, like adding beets to your morning, to begin that ripple effect of healing. I've watched men in their 70s and 80s rediscover things they thought were permanently behind them. Strength, confidence, intimacy, a sense of aliveness. I don't share those stories because they're exceptional. I share them because they are possible. And if you're willing to take that first step, not for anyone else, but for yourself, then this simple habit could mark the beginning of a new chapter, one where you stop managing symptoms and start reclaiming control, where every morning becomes a quiet act of courage. Every glass of beet juice becomes a message to your heart, your hormones, your sense of self. I'm here, and I still matter. So ask yourself, what would it feel like to wake up with energy again? To look in the mirror and feel connected to the man you are? To know that the changes you're making aren't temporary fixes, but real, lasting steps toward the life you deserve? You are not beyond help. You are not too old to begin again. And you are absolutely not alone. Conclusion. Let this be the first morning of the rest of your life by now. You've seen the full picture. You've learned that the real reason so many men struggle with weaker erections after 60 isn't simply about testosterone, it's about circulation. You've discovered that beetroot, a simple and often overlooked vegetable, has the power to reignite nitric oxide production, restore blood flow, and bring life back to the parts of a man that once felt lost. You've seen what happens inside the body when it's eaten. You've heard how real men just like you, have experienced profound changes. And you've understood why timing, especially in the morning, can make all the difference. We've talked about what to avoid, the breakfast habits that quietly sabotage progress, and the healing power of building a ritual that doesn't just support the body, but reclaims a man's sense of identity from the inside out. You've seen the realistic timeline, from those subtle early shifts to the deeper transformations that emerge with consistency. And you've heard my reflections, not just as a physician, but as someone who believes deeply in every man's potential to feel strong, capable, and alive again. So here's what I want to leave you with. Don't wait for a better moment. Don't wait for more motivation, more research, or another wake-up call. You have everything you need right now. The knowledge, the tools, and the choice. One small act, repeated each morning, can build a rhythm of healing that touches every part of life, energy, confidence, relationships, and a renewed sense of self. No matter how many years have passed or how long you felt disconnected from the man you once were, that version of you is still there. Waiting, ready, beats are just the beginning. Let this be the first morning of the rest of your life. You're not done. Far from it. You're just getting started. If this video spoke to you, if it helped you see your body in a new light, or gave you even one small reason to hope again, I'd be honored if you gave it a like. It lets me know these messages matter and helps other men like you find the support they need. Feel free to share this with a brother, a friend, a husband, or someone you care about. You never know whose life you might quietly change by simply passing it along. I also welcome your voice in the comments. Type 1 if you're going to try this beet morning routine, or share how your journey has been going. I read every comment and I learn from each of you. And if you'd like to support this channel and help us reach more men with real, honest, and hopeful health content, you can donate through the link below. Every contribution helps us keep these videos ad-free, trustworthy, and focused on what truly matters, helping men reclaim their strength one morning at a time. Thank you for watching. And thank you for choosing to take your health into your own hands. You are not alone, and you are never too old to begin again.